So today we're going to look at the Yusei deck after the latest character duels update, and Yusei before the new update isn't exactly one of the best decks in the format. It's kind of below average a little bit even after you upgrade the deck, just because the engine itself is just not that good compared to like other options you can play, like resonators or onomats, which basically do the same kind of combo strategy but just better and more consistent. And so the new update gave us a lot of new support. There's like non-direct support, like one copy of Valor, but there are also a lot of direct support, like new Synchron monsters, like Mistworm, Drill Warrior, Turbo Warrior, and the Synchrons. But those are not the best upgrades to the deck. The one that we care the most is Stardust Spark Dragon, because the game one turn one plan of this deck is to make a Stardust Dragon and then have the skill set a trap on your field, and that gives you a single pop. So that's what the deck used to do, but the trap works with any Stardust monster, so it doesn't have to be the original Stardust. So what you can do is use the Stardust Spark Dragon instead. It is exactly the same levels as the original Stardust Dragon, so the combo is exactly the same, but instead of making Stardust, you just make the Spark Dragon. And Spark Dragon just has a better effect than the original Stardust Dragon, because instead of negating an effect by attributing itself, it just lets you stop your cards from being destroyed. So what that means is that it not only protects you from being destroyed by battle or card effect, which means it has more coverage, it also means that after your opponent attempts to destroy your things, your Stardust stays on the field, which means your trap card will still be live, because previously your opponent could force the trap card out with something like a Blue Eyes alternative White Dragon. So now they couldn't, because you can just protect your Stardust and then your trap card will still be on the field for you to be used on something more impactful later. So other than the new stuff, the deck is basically unchanged, but we are playing a different version of the deck than the one that I made a video before, because the one that I showcased in a previous video plays a lot more back row. That's like a more back row heavy strategy. But today we're looking at a more combo heavy version of the deck, playing more monsters and less back row to try to OTK on your second turn. So the two most important cards are O-Lion, which is an extender, because when it is sent to the graveyard, you get a level 3 token, and most importantly, Rush Warrior, which is basically concentrating current but a lot better, because it is a monster, which means you can send it off of Quick Draw Synchron. It's not limited, so it's more likely that you draw it. It's level 2. It has a graveyard effect, so if you mill it with your tuning randomly, or if you send it off of Quick Draw Synchron, you get a bonus effect that allows you to add stuff back from your graveyard for follow-up. And also, the attack boost that you get from this card is so large that you just win the game on the spot. So unlike Concentrating Current, usually, because the shark monsters aren't big enough for Concentrating Current to actually deal lethal damage, it's not that worth it in the shark deck. But in this deck, the attack boost from Rush Warrior is actually really, really big, because when you use it is you use it on Nitro Warrior, and its attack goes up to 38 if you activate a spell card after you summon this card. So how it works is that it goes up to 38 first, and then you get to use the attack boost, which doubles its attack. So it goes all the way to 7600 attack, and that means that if you attack any monster that has 3600 attack or less, it just wins you the game. You immediately deal enough damage for lethal, and that's really, really strong. So definitely a really, really good card that you want to play 3 copies of. And other than that, the deck is pretty much the same, but we are playing Sphere Karibos instead of MSTs or Book of Moons, because it has more synergy, because it's a monster, and also the game plan of this more aggressive version of the deck is to stall when you go first. So Sphere Karibo helps you not die if you go first, and then on your next turn, you can try to OTK, and if you didn't use your Sphere Karibo, you can always discard it with your quick draw, so it's never wasted. So yeah, let's have a look at some replays. Alright, game 1 we're playing against Blue Eyes, and this time we are going first. So the going first end board of Synchrons in general isn't very good. That's why you have a choice of either playing like a monster heavy version like this deck, or playing a more back row heavy version like my previous version of the deck. And if you play more back row, that just means that your going first end board will be better because you have more back row to back up your strategy. But if you play this version, all you have is the one trap that you get from your skill and pretty much nothing else, which is sometimes enough depending on what deck you play against and if you draw any Spookaribos, but sometimes it won't be enough if your opponent has back row removal. Opponent's playing Blue Eyes, so he might have a way to out our board if they have enough non-engine, but thankfully they don't. A single MST or Book of Moon will be enough to actually out this end board, unfortunately, but thankfully all they have is engine, and alternative White Dragon cannot actually pop our Stardust Spark Dragon. We can protect itself from being destroyed, and then when our opponent tries to attack with the Blue Eyes, we can just pop it. And even if they try to make the fusion monster, we can still pop it anyway, but he didn't do that. So now he doesn't have anything else, and it's free for us to combo and actually win the game. We're gonna combo a little bit more than necessary because we want to play around stuff like Sphere-Kuriboh. So we're gonna make one additional monster in case he has like a single Sphere-Kuriboh in his hand, which we will find out that he doesn't. But we'll still make like the original Stardust, just in case. And then we'll switch everything to attack, and then we just attack, and that's lethal. Okay, game 2 we're going second, again against a Blue Eyes deck. And this deck is a lot better going second just because of the way we built the deck. The entire deck is just extenders. So as long as our opponent isn't really lucky and draws a whole bunch of back row, we should be able to OTK, especially that we have the one Rush Warrior that we drew. So we're gonna go and activate our skill, revealing the tuning at random, and then setting the trap. We're gonna activate tuning to grab ourselves the Junk Synchron, which is our main combo starter. We're gonna normal summon it, and then summon back a monster. He activates Warning Point, which is really good against our deck because it not only stops effect, it also prevents us from using the Junk Synchron as a synchro material. So it's kind of just stuck on our field, similar to how, you know, Forbidden Crown works in the TCG. But because we have enough extenders in our hand, we can just make Nitro Warrior anyway. We'll use Book of Moon on our own monster just to make our Nitro Warrior active. And then we can just use the attack boost plus the Rush Warrior in our hand, and we can just attack, and that will be enough for lethal. So yeah, pretty fun deck, definitely would recommend if you are a fan of Synchrons. Thanks for watching, goodbye.